What's up, guys? Welcome to another Frontend Mentor challenge. Today we're going to go ahead and build this Base Apparel Coming Soon page, or it's like a little landing page. So we'll click it here. We'll just look at the design. So this will be our desktop design. It's basically just the whole page. So we'll make a container. We'll use Flexbox to put these side by side. Just some text. We have a little email input and then an image over here. And then on mobile, it pretty much just gets stacked on top of each other, except the picture goes first, and then the logo goes up here. So we'll use our CSS media queries to make it look like that on mobile. And we're going to build this all from scratch, just using regular HTML and CSS. There's also, I don't think it shows it here, but there is some JavaScript that we're going to be doing as well for the email address box. And I'll show you that in the design files. But if you enter the email wrong, well, we're going to pop up a little error icon and an error message. And I'll show you how to do that. And we're also going to use, as part of the JavaScript for that, we're going to use a little bit of AI. We'll use ChatGPT to give us some of the code to make that functionality work. Because I just want to show you guys how you can use AI to help your workflows and make complicated stuff really easy. Okay? So go ahead and we'll download the starter file if you haven't already. So I'll just click download on that. And then also, if you would like, if you pay for, I think you have to have the pro version of Frontend Mentor. It's like $10 a month or something. But if you want, you can download the Figma file too, so that you can use Figma, which is this design software, to view. It'll let you view the heights and CSS of stuff, so you can get the design pretty close to the original exact. So you can download the Figma file by just clicking that. And then Figma's free to download, guys, but if you want to use it as a developer, you have to purchase developer mode, which is like $15 a month. I have a whole other video on that I can link in the description on how to use Figma. Just a quick little beginner's tutorial. But I do recommend that if you're a new developer and you're learning this stuff, that you get familiar with at least one design software. And Figma is great because it's really easy to use. It's part of it's free, but it's cheaper than Photoshop. So at least know how to use one design software, whatever that is that you choose. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and then I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this. I know I downloaded the starter kit for this, but I still like to create my own folder, and I just bring the images over because Frontend Mentor gives us a bunch of stuff that we don't need in that starter file. So I'm going to just call this Base Apparel Page. And then I'm going to open up that little starter file. So we have Base Apparel Master. This is the starter files. And I really just want to bring the images over. So I'm going to just pretty much drag this into my new folder that I created so that the images are in there. I don't need really anything else. I don't need the style guide or anything because I'm going to use the Figma file. I'll show you how to use the Figma file. So if you download Figma, and you can use the web app version, which is like the website, figma.com, or you can download it natively on your desktop computer. So that's what I did here. I'm on Mac. So I'm just going to open up Figma. It's on my other screen. I'll drag it over here. And to get to your Figma file up here, I already have it here. But if you're new to Figma or you don't know how, you can just unzip Figma. And then the folder will be here. Open the folder. And then this Base Apparel Coming Soon page.fig. So the .fig file is what you can just drag it on over to your Figma desktop thing and it'll open up in there. Okay. I'm not going to do it because I already have it here, but that's how you would do that. So just looking at the Figma file really quick, I just want to show you guys that the complete design with the JavaScript functionality that it wants us to build. So this is the desktop image, and then down here, see if we can zoom in on that. So it wants us to build some functionality, and we're going to do that using JavaScript to where if they put an email address that doesn't look like an email, this little error icon shows up, and then this message, please provide a valid email. And then we're also going to make the border color change to like that reddish pinkish color if it's wrong. And that's going to happen if they click the submit button here and the email is wrong. So that's also what they want us to build. And then same thing on the mobile. So the mobile, just like I showed you earlier, it's stacked on top of each other. And then this stuff here is it's the same stuff that shows up on desktop, the error message and the icon. All right. And then I was telling you guys about Figma. If you paid, you have to pay them like $15 a month now. This all used to be free, but it's not anymore. This little icon down here, this code icon, is dev mode. So if I click this and I leave dev mode, now when I click on stuff, it's not really going to show us anything. See in the sidebar here, if I pay and I can turn dev mode back on, which I can because I have a paid account. If you click into stuff, look at that. It'll give you the CSS, so the color, text align center, the font size. You get all of that with dev mode on. If you don't want to pay them money for dev mode, and you don't need to, you can just follow along with this tutorial. But just wanted to show you what that was with Figma, okay? So I'm going to bring my Figma file over to my other screen, and then I'll reference the design file as we go, as we build on Frontend Mentor. I'm not going to show Figma the whole time up here. I'm going to mainly be showing our code and the page that we're building. So let's open up our new let's open up a new window, and I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code for this tutorial. This is a free text editor. It's pretty much the most popular one, at least for like front-end development. And if you want, just go ahead and download it. I'm not going to do a full tutorial here, but I will create tutorial videos on Visual Studio Code in the future. So we have all the images that we dragged over here. Background images. We don't need this favicon. I'm going to delete that. That's like the Frontend Mentor logo. Got the icons, which are SVG files. Okay, so we got all of our images. We're going to go ahead and make a index.html file and a style.css. And then we're also going to make a JavaScript file that I'm going to call index.js. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to set up our HTML and then connect our style sheet and our JavaScript files and then test them to make sure they're connected, okay? So I'm going to get my HTML boilerplate code. So I'm going to hold Shift and 1, make an exclamation point, and I'm going to hit Tab. And then that gives us our HTML code that we need. I'm going to be saving the project as we go. To do that in Visual Studio Code, you can go to File and Save. Or you can hit Command S on Mac, or I think it's Control S on PC to do that as like the shortcut. Let's name our document. So we'll name this something realistic. So I'm gonna call it Base Apparel, and then I'm gonna make a pipe, and that's the Shift button and the backslash will get you a pipe. That's called a pipe, and then we'll put coming soon. Exclamation, because that would probably be something that you'd see on the title of a page, right? Let's go above here, and below our first meta tag, we'll link our style sheet. So we'll do the link tag. I'm going to type out link and hit tab. We have our rel style sheet there, and then we're going to link style.css, and then we're going to link our JavaScript. So we'll go above the closing body tag, and we'll type out script and give it a source, and then this will be index.js, okay? So we'll do an H1 in the body, and we'll just say test. So let's go ahead and minimize this a little bit. I'm going to click the Go Live button here, and this will open up our web page in Google. There it is. So we know our page is here because we have Base Apparel coming soon. That's what we titled it. And we have our little H1 here that says test. So let's put these side by side. And then let's make sure our CSS is here. So we'll go to our CSS style sheet. And I'm going to do an asterisk to select all on the page. And I'm going to do a CSS reset to get rid of the default margin and padding that Google Chrome and other browsers have by default. So we're going to say margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box. And that gets rid of everything there, okay? And then to further test it, we can say H1 color red. And there we go. We know our CSS is working, okay? So CSS is good. We can get rid of that H1. We're going to keep this code because that's actually going to, that gives us a clean slate to work with in terms of CSS, right? Let's connect our JavaScript or test that it's connected. So I'm going to make an alert on my JavaScript page. And I'm going to say connected. So if I save this page, we'll get a JavaScript alert message that says connected if it's connected correctly. So let's save. And we're good to go. So our JavaScript is connected. All right, so we'll get out of there. JavaScript we're not going to have to mess with until the end of the project, so we'll just click out of there. And we'll start building this thing out. So the first thing that we're going to want to get is the fonts for this, for the web page, and we're going to use that on using Google Fonts. And the font that we need is called Josefin Sans, or Josephine Sans, however you pronounce it. So let's go to Google Fonts. And then you can just type in Josephine Sans here. And there it is. Click on Get Font, and then we're just going to get the embed code. And we're going to paste it up in our HTML. So we're just going to copy the code. This is what's called a variable font. So you pretty much have to just take all of the font weights at once if you're going to use it. So that's just what we're going to do. And I copied my code over here, and we're going to paste our code in our HTML above our style sheet. So above our style sheet, below the last meta tag, we're just going to paste that in and save. And then let's see if our font changed. Oh, well, we also have to put our font family in here, guys. Sorry. So let's go back to that page. Didn't change because we didn't put the font family, which should be this font family. Josefin Sans and serif as a backup. So let's paste that in here because it's going to be for a whole web page. There it is. So our font did change, okay? So we're good to go on that. That's the only font that this project uses. So get out of that. And let's see, so we got our CSS, our JavaScript, our images. We're good to go here. We're going to start actually building this out, okay? So let's get rid of this H1. And let's look at the project here and decide how we're going to build this. So let's go back and look at this. So this is our desktop version. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to make a main container. This whole big box is a div, right? That's going to be a box. Then within that div is going to be 2 more divs. One div is going to have all of the, we'll call it the email or the text content. And then the div below it is going to be for the image. Okay, so we'll do that. And then we'll use CSS Flexbox to put the content side by side. And we'll just fill in everything and then space it out. You know, there's some margin and padding in here that we'll use. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and make this. This is pretty much a full page design, right? So we'll make a container, and then we'll make our text div and our image div. So I'll keep that open here. And let's just go into our code. I'm going to make it big here so it's really easy to see what I'm doing. So let's start underneath our body. We'll make a main tag just to use a little bit of semantic HTML. And we'll start and we'll make this our first div. We'll call it main. We'll call it a card. We'll say main card container. And then below that, we're going to have our text. So we'll just call that div below it card text container. And that's where in between this div. So this is like the whole page is going to be in here. And then this div is going to be all of that text in the email, okay? And then we'll make another div just for the image. And that div, I'm doing the shortcuts to make classes, guys. So you just put a dot for whatever, and then you write the class name out that you want and hit tab, and it'll give you a div with that class name. That's part of Visual Studio Code. So I'll call this one below it card image container. And I'm just going to leave that closed for now. So just to, if you're new, I know that HTML and CSS are confusing, especially when you're new, right? But just to reiterate what we just did there, okay? And I know there's nothing on the page yet, but this is our main card container, the whole page. And then we had our, we called it the card text container. That's going to be this half of it. And then we had our card image container, and that's where the image is going to go, okay? So that's all we did was we made the 3 main boxes that are going to make up our page with divs. So 1 box that contains everything, and then 2 boxes for each part of the content. And then we gave them names so that, they describe what they actually do, right? That's another important thing. So in our card text container, let's start building this out. So the first thing that we need is the Base Apparel logo. So we'll make that now. So I'll go ahead and put it in another div, and we'll just call this the logo container. This is where we're going to put our logo image. And then we're going to put an image tag in here. And we're going to go into our images folder, and we want the logo.svg. And for our alt text, I'll just put Base Apparel. What is it? APP, if I can spell. Logo for our alt text, and we'll save. And there's our logo. Okay, so logo first. And then we have this big H1 text. So let's go below our logo. And we'll have an H1 tag, and I'll put a class name on it of main heading. And then in there, we just have we're coming soon, right? So we'll say WERE, we're coming soon. Now, you might notice that the text on top, the we're, is like in that pinkish color. So we're going to go ahead and add that. We're going to style that when we add our CSS, but we're going to put the we're in a tag called a span tag. So we'll write out a span, and then we'll put the word in here. And then we're going to give a class name to the span. So we'll say class, and we'll give it a class of, we'll just call it pink text. Make it really simple. So by putting this where in the span and then giving it pink text, that's going to allow us to just style the where in this H1 separately from the other 2 words that are in it. So that's how you do that, guys. Put stuff, if you're running something like this in a design, put whatever words you need to in the span, and then you can style it separately. Okay. So let's see how that. So we're coming soon. And again, we're just doing the raw HTML, guys. We'll make this look really good with CSS after we get all the HTML in there. So below our heading, we're going to have this email text. So below our H1, we'll make a P tag. Make this bigger. We'll make a P tag. And we'll give that a class of email CTA. So CTA in the web development and marketing world stands for call to action. So this is text calling you to action to go ahead and sign up for the email. So we'll say email-CTA text. So email call to action text. All right. And then I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste all that text that goes in there. So don't want to type it all out. It says, hello, fellow shoppers. We're currently building our new fashion store. Add your email below to stay up to date with announcements and our launch deals. So this is like one of those pages where the store isn't there, the website isn't complete yet, but this is like a pre-opening page that you'll come on to. You'll send them their email, and they'll send you like exclusive deals and stuff like that. Okay. So let's see if that came through, and it did. There's our text. And then below it, we need to make the input box with a button right next to it. And I'll show you how to do that. We're going to be using position relative and position absolute to make that button go next to there and put it into the actual input. So below the form, or below the paragraph tag here, our text, we're going to put this input in a form. So let's go below here. And I know these divs can get a little confusing with all these divs. Just know that this is the div below the P is the card text container div that we open with. So you should have no more divs but one closing one here. and then this is going to be where the image goes. So make sure that you're getting that right if you're coding along and you're new, okay? Pause the video if you have to and make sure yours looks just like mine. All right, so let's do our form tag here. And we're not going to give this form an action because this is just like a little front end project. Normally in that action, you would put some code in there to tell it where it's going to get sent off to like the backend server for PHP or whatever language you're going to be using, but we don't need that for this little tutorial. So it's just like it's a little practice page basically, right? But we will give it an ID name. So I'll give this an ID of form. We'll just call it form. And we'll be using that ID to grab onto it with JavaScript later. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the input and other things in another, like kind of like a container. So I'll make a div, and I'll call this the input wrapper. That's common in web development. You're going to see people that either call containers or wrappers on divs that are just going to be around stuff. So we'll just call it a wrapper. Why not? And then we'll make our input, and that'll be a text input. And then I'm going to give this input an ID of, we'll just call it email input. Let's make it simple, right? So we'll say email input. And then we're going to put in here what's called placeholder text. So we'll make the placeholder little tag here. Or what is this called? That's called the attribute, sorry. So we'll put the placeholder attribute in here. And it just says on the design, it's just supposed to say email address. So let's put email address. So again, just to help the user know what to put in there. Okay, so there's our input. So you can see our page. Again, there's no CSS yet, but we can see all of our text stuff is coming in, okay? And then we got to put that button. So below our input, and within our input wrapper, we're going to create the button. So we're just going to do a button tag. And we're going to use the type attribute. And this is going to be a submit button because we're submitting a form. And then we'll give it a class of email-btn. And then in it, we're going to put an image, which is this little arrow image that you see here, which is like it's going to be an SVG. So we're going to go into our images folder. So let's do image tag. And then for the source, we're going to go into our images folder, and we're going to go to the icon arrow.svg. And let's see if that came through. Yep, there it is. So see how the button, this will be our button, but it's right next to there like it should be. And that's going to be all that we do for now. So we have all of our main content in here without the CSS for our little text side of the design. And now we just got to put in our image. So let's go below, and we're going to go to our div that we created earlier, our card image container. Open that div up, and we're going to put the image in there, which is like this model, this pretty looking model chick, right? So let's go into our, make an image tag, go into our images folder, and then we're going to, it'll be the hero-desktop.jpg. And in here, we'll just put model, or we'll put base, if I can spell, apparel model. It's just like a model, right? So I'll see if that showed up on the page, and there she is. All right, so now guys, we're going to use CSS to make that raw HTML look like this. So side by side in a box, and colored and spaced out and everything like that, okay? So let's get that done now. The first thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to use Flexbox and CSS to make these things go side by side on the page for our little main card container class that we did. So let's get that done. So I'm just going to copy this class main card container and go over to my CSS and select it. And we're going to say width, we want this to be 100% of the page. And then we're going to say height 100 VH. So that height, it means that we want it, all of the content to be like 100% of the page like this is. Okay, so 100% of what people are going to see when they first land on the page. We want them to see everything, because that's basically the whole page. It's just this whole area. So height 100 VH, which stands for viewport height. Okay. So the viewport is the screen. We want it to be the whole screen. And then we're going to use display, flex, and see now everything is side by side. And then we're going to go use, we'll say align items center. So that now our text is centered with the lady. Okay. And that's, now we're going to space everything out, but that's how we want it to be to start. So next we're going to go ahead and we're just going to keep going in order of our HTML on the page. So we have everything side by side. We have all the raw HTML in. So we're going to start at the top and work our way down. And that's how you need to build all of your projects going forward, guys. Start at one thing and just go in order. Break the whole page down into small little problems one by one and just tackle it that way, okay? Especially if you're new. I know this might be intimidating, but that's how you ultimately build websites. You make one thing at a time, okay? One problem only. That's all you need to think about. So we need to get this looking like this now. So the first thing we're going to do on our text area page, our text container, is it has this like pinkish background that you can kind of faintly see. It's got like pink and then white and then pink and white. Okay, so we're going to add that background. And then we're going to space everything out. So our base apparel, our text, everything needs, we're going to add some padding so that everything comes in to the middle and looks like the design. So let's get that all done now. So I'm going to go and let's select our card text container because that's all the content that's on this side. So we'll select that, copy it. I'll put our dot first. And it's a good idea, guys, to always copy your class names and ID names when you're styling them with CSS, because that way you'll avoid doing any typos, okay? So let's go ahead and put that background in. So we're gonna use background and then URL, and then we're gonna go into our images folder. And the first one is bgpattern.desktop.svg. We're going to select that one. And then we're going to say, we want no repeat because we don't want background images repeat by default, and we don't want that. And then we want it centered. And then for the size of the image, we want it center/cover. So we'll save, and then we'll look at it, see if we can tell if it's there. And there we go. We can tell it's there, and then just the little area that we haven't spaced everything out yet, but our background image is there. And then I want the width of our text area to be more than half, because if we look at the design, it's more than half of the area. So I'd say this is 60% and then this is 40%. So we'll do like a 60-40 split. So let's do width 60%. And then again, height, we want 100 viewport height, 100 VH. And then we want to add some, if we look at our design, there we go. There's the background image just starting to come along and look good. But we want the, everything needs to be pushed in more to the center. If we look at the design, everything is pushed in more. So we're just going to use padding. There's some padding left and padding right that we're going to use to make it pushed into the center, like all of the content is here. Because it's not like completely centered, but it's definitely pushed in, right? So we'll do our best to do that. And this is just eyeballing it. We don't got to get everything perfect, but we'll do padding left 15 rem and padding right 15 rem. So if you don't know what rems are, guys, rem is 1 rem equals 16 pixels. So 16 times 15, do the math on that, okay? So if we look at it, I know it looks weird in the other view, but in this view it looks, it pretty much brings everything into the center like it should be, okay? So we're getting there. We still got a ways to go before it looks really good. Now we're going to start, now that we have like the basic, we have our padding on the sides and everything, we're going to start with putting the logo exactly where it should be and then work our way down to the heading, the text, and the input, okay? So next up on our list is our logo. So let's select our logo. So we're going to select the logo container class that we have. And then we're going to select the image in there, which is the logo itself. And we're going to say padding top 6 rem and padding bottom 5 rem, because you can see in the design here that there's space on top and then a big gap between the logo and the text, the H1. So there we are. And I'd say we could probably make it less padding on the top because it's not quite that far down. So maybe we'll just go padding top like 3 rem, like put it in half. See how that looks. That's a little closer, okay? And then next up, we're just gonna keep working our way down. So we're gonna style the heading, that heading text. So we'll go ahead and grab our main heading, I believe it's main heading, right? Yep, our main heading class for our H1, and we'll style that text. So put our dot, put main heading here, and then we'll do, so let me just give you guys a peek on how I'm getting the font size and everything. Remember, I'm getting this all from Figma because I pay for the dev mode on Figma. So let me just show you my Figma screen that I'm seeing. Go over to here. So what I can do now, guys, to see the font size and all the styling for this thing is I can just click on it, and then it'll tell me the font size, the font weight, line height, letter spacing, because you can see the letters are spaced out. I'm going to be getting all of that from Figma on my other screen, okay? So if you're following along with me and using Figma, you can even pause the video, click on this, and fill everything in yourself. But I'm basically just copying what the design says. I'm going to use that font size, 64 pixels, font weight, 600, so on and so on, okay? So just so you guys know where I'm getting this stuff from, I'm not just making it up. So let's go font size, 64 pixels. And then we have our color. And the color is kind of like a blackish color, so it's going to be, we're going to go use a hex code hashtag 423 A3A. And it's kind of like a black color. Okay. And then we're going to use font weight 600, so it's a little bolder. And then our line height is going to be 71 pixels. And line height, guys, is like the distance between words top to bottom. So see how the words are kind of scrunched up here? That's the line height, okay? So that's line height, and then we're going to use letter spacing because the letters are spaced out. We can see that clearly. It's called letter spacing. We're going to say letter spacing 17 pixels. So let's look at what that looks like now. Okay, it's looking close. So we also have to do, everything is uppercase, so let's do that. We'll say, to make stuff uppercase, guys, we're going to use text transform, and we're going to put uppercase and save. Now everything should be in caps, all caps. Okay, there it is. So now what we have to do is remember the where is pink. We got to use that pink text class that we made with the span and make that stuff pink. So we'll do that now. So let's go into our HTML and select the pink text class. And we'll put it right below here. And we're going to give this the text color. And it's going to be hashtag CE9898. And then the font weight on that is going to be 300. So it's going to be a little skinnier, just like the design. See, this text is a little skinnier. This is a little fatter. So font weight 300. Okay. And now let's see what that looks like full screen. And it looks just like the design. So there's the design. Here's ours. Pretty dead on, man. Pretty good. So now let's move on down to we called this the email CTA or call to action text. And we'll go ahead and style that up now. So let's go ahead. And we'll grab our email CTA text class. And we'll put our dot. All right, so again, I'm getting this from Figma, but we're going to use padding top. Give it some space on the top of 2 rem, so that's 32 pixels. And then the color is going to be the same color as the pink text for Weir. So we'll just copy that down. Then our font size is going to be 16 pixels. And our font weight is regular or 400. So 400 is like your default, but we'll just put it explicitly in our code. And then our line height is going to be 28 pixels. And we'll save, and now let's look at that. So should look like this down here. And bam, beautiful. So there is our text, looking good. All right, so now we're going to move on down and make our button and our input look exactly like the design here. So let's keep moving on down. So first let's select our form, because we need to put some space between our form and the text. So we'll say form, and we're just going to give it some padding on the top of 3 rem. And then we're going to go ahead and grab our input. So, well, let's grab our input wrapper first, because we need to do some styling on that. So remember, our input wrapper, it's the same thing as a container. It's going to contain our input and our buttons so that we can use positioning to put our button inside the input like we want, okay? So let's go ahead and select input wrapper like that. And let's say width 400 pixels. Max width 100%. And position, we're going to use relative. And you're not going to notice too much with that. Not really going to notice any change, but all of that in the position relative is going to allow us to move the button where we want, okay? So let's keep going down to the actual input itself. So let's grab our email input. We can use that ID to style as well. So put email input and our little hashtag for IDs, our ID selector. And let's say we're going to say width 100%. And then we're going to say height. And the height is 56 pixels according to Figma for the input. And then it's got a border radius of 28 pixels. And padding left of 1 rem. And that padding left is for the placeholder text that says email address. So there we go. So that padding left was for right here. The border radius was for the corners. And then our width of 400 pixels made it this long. Okay. So there we go. Now we're going to use some additional CSS to style the button and then put it right here where it belongs. Okay. So let's go back. Let's go ahead and make our placeholder text, which says email address. We're going to style that first. And it needs to be that same pinkish color that our other text is. Right now it's black if you look at it. You've got to make it bigger. It's black. I need to make this email text start that pinkish color. So let's do that. So to style our placeholder text, you use a pseudo selector, and it's input, and then 2 colons, and then placeholder. And we're just going to copy this color down and paste it in here. And if we look at it, now it's pink. Just our placeholder text, not the actual text for our email, right? But it's that pink color. And we have to make this border. I see that blue outline. I don't want that blue outline when we click on stuff because it's not in the design. And that's just like a default thing that Chrome and other web browsers do when you select input fields. It highlights it that blue, and we don't want that. So we'll get rid of that. I also want you, before I forget, on our input, we need to color the border. So we're going to say border 1 pixel solid, and then we're going to use that pink color. So this one's CE898 because the design has a pinkish border, if you can tell. There we go. Now our border is pink. Our text is that color. Let's get rid of this blue input. And I'll show you how to style that or how to do that, right? So it's another pseudo selector. So this is input, colon, and then it's called the focus. And then what you want to do is put outline and none and save. And now that should go away. When we highlight it, see how it's not here? No more blue, okay? So that's how you do that. Now let's go ahead and style up our email button so it looks like this. So we already have the image of the arrow, but around it we have to make this thing and then that background gradient. It's called a gradient that goes from light pink to dark. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And then of course we'll use positioning to position it where it belongs. So let's grab our, what did we name this one? Email BTN, I think. Right here. So email BTN. All right, so for our email button, we're gonna say border none. And the width on this, according to Figma, is 100 pixels. And the height is 59 pixels. And then the border radius is 35 pixels. And that makes it round. So let's actually look at what we're doing here on our button. So you can see it down here. It's still gray, but we've got our border radius, our height, and our width. That's around that image now, the arrow SVG. So it's looking like the design. Now we got to put the background and put it up here where it belongs, right? So we'll do that. So I'm just gonna copy and paste. What I had to do to get this, I couldn't get this this gradient color from Figma. I was having trouble with that, so I just made it on my own. And how I did that, I'm not gonna make it live, but I'll show you what I did. If you ever get something like this, and this is called a gradient, guys. When something goes from like a light color to a darker color, it's called a gradient, a CSS gradient. So how I made it is I went to Google and I just typed in CSS gradient generator. And I used this one, Josh W. Whoever you are, Josh W. did a great job. And I put colors in here. And how I got the colors is I took a screenshot of this on my Mac. And I went to htmlcolorcodes.com or htmlcolorcodes.info. And I uploaded my screenshot. I think I still have it on here. Do I still have it? Yeah, I do. I uploaded the screenshot of it, and I was like, okay, what's the darkest color? Got the hex code. What's the medium color? Got the hex code. What's the lightest color? Got the hex code. I put those 3 hex codes in here. So 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. You can just copy and paste them. Whoops. Whatever. You get the point. You can copy and paste them. Change your angle. Change the positioning. And that's how I can. And then it gives you the code. It gives you the code down here, which you can just copy and paste, and that's how I got it, okay? So it's one of those things where when you need to do stuff and you can't figure it out, use Google and type in how to do it like all developers do. You'll find an online tool or somebody will give you the answer, and that's how you get stuff done, okay? So now you know how I did it. I'm just going to copy and paste my gradient code in here that I got because it took me a while of tweaking to get it right, and I don't want to have to go through that and take up an hour in this video doing that. But just so you have, the idea of how I got here, right? I'm just going to copy that in, and then let's look at it. And it's not exact, but it's pretty close. It goes from light to medium to dark, okay? So that's like as close as I could get it. I took like a half an hour of my time to get it looking decent. But, yeah, it's just one of those things with development, guys. Sometimes things are a pain in the butt, and you just got to do it, right? All right, so let's finish our button. So let's make, we want the cursor to be the pointer when we select the button. So we want that the little hand like that to come. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to put aspect ratio 1 to keep it the same size on all screen sizes. And then we're going to use position absolute. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring it out of the normal flow of the document of our page, and it's going to put it side by side with our input. So now it's on the side, but this needs to be like in our input, like the design like this. So let's do that now. What we're going to do to make that happen is we're going to use, we're just going to say right -5 pixels. So I'm going to go to the right -5. So it's going to actually bring it towards the left. And there it is. Okay. Now it's in our thing, and it's going to stay there even if the screen size changes because we use position absolute. It's pretty much glued there. When you use position relative and position absolute, it's not going to move. Okay. So it's moving now just because we haven't made the page responsive yet, but you'll see. But that's where it needs to be. So that's basically it. I think before we style it for mobile, because we have it, I mean, everything that we have here is looking pretty close to the design right now. Actually, no, we got to do our image. So let's work on our image a little bit to make it look a little bit better. And then we'll do the JavaScript, and then we'll make it mobile and be done. So let's do the image. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the image we're going to select our card image container. So let's say .card image container. And then we want the actual image that's in it. So after that, we'll put image. And we're going to say width 100%. And then we're going to say height 100 VH, just like the rest of our stuff. And let's see what that did. And there we go. We made our image 100% of its container, which is the 40%. And it made it the whole viewport height of the page. So now it looks like the design, right? It's supposed to take up like our whole web page, or our whole like page on our screen. And that's what it's doing now. I think it's pretty much, yeah, that's all we have to do for like the image, right? So this is our, this is the desktop design basically, right? Like it's not completely exact, but it's pretty close, right? If we look at them. So I'm pretty happy with that. Good enough. It's not exactly pixel perfect, but it's pretty close, right? So let's go ahead now and we'll add our JavaScript functionality so that we get the error icon in the message. So let's look at that in Figma just so you can see what we're about to do. And then we'll worry about making it mobile. We'll use media queries, but we'll do the JavaScript first. So just to refresh you guys, what we have to do now is we have to make it so we're going to write JavaScript code so that if there's two things happen. Number one, if this is empty and we just hit the submit button to submit the form, if there's nothing in here at all, we're going to have that icon show up and this text, please provide a valid email. The second parameter that we're going to use is if somebody puts an email in here, but it's not correct, like there's no @ symbol here, if it doesn't match the typical email format, we're going to use JavaScript to check that. And if it doesn't match, if there's text in there and it still doesn't match, that is also going to trigger that error icon, and that to tell the user, hey, we know you're still not using a correct email. Please put one in, okay? And then we'll add some bonus JavaScript to where if the user does put in a correct email, we'll say like thank you, something like that. So just to give the user feedback that they did the right thing, right? Because we want them. I don't think that's on this design, but we want to make this more user friendly. So we'll go a little bit above and beyond and do that as well. So let's get this done. So how I'm gonna do this? There's a couple ways we can go about this. We can make all of that in JavaScript and render it just through JavaScript, but that's a little more advanced. I'm assuming that if you were watching this, you're like more of a beginner. So what we'll do to make this more beginner friendly is we're going to make the icon and everything with just HTML. We're going to use display none by default so that it won't show on the page, and then we'll make it display only if JavaScript checks it and decides that it's not a good email. It'll make it a little bit simpler and easier to understand what we're doing. Below, we're going to go into our input, and we're going to make that error icon that appears right here. So let's go into our input wrapper, and below our button, we're going to put the error icon, which is just an image. So let's say image, and we're going to give this a class. Actually, we'll give it an ID. We'll say ID error icon. And then we're going to go into our images folder, and it's icon error.svg. And then we'll leave the alt blank because it's just if you have images or icons that are just for decoration, you can just leave the alt text blank. That's not a big deal. So let's see if that showed up on our page. There it is. There's the error icon. So now we have to put it here. And it made our button come out of place, but we'll fix that. Don't worry. So let's see if we can place our error icon. We're going to use position absolute like we did with our button to make our error icon like right here where it should be. So we'll do that now. So I'm going to select error icon ID. And we're going to say position absolute. And then we're going to say we're going to use right and bottom. So let's use right, and we'll put 0 pixels, bottom 0 pixels. And let's go in and look at it now. And now we're going to use the, we fixed our button. Our button went back into place when we put this absolute. So now we're going to use our Google Developer Tools to position this. So I'm going to right click and inspect. And this is a neat little trick that you can use. This is a great skill to learn if you're new. We're going to go over to select. This is the select element thing. Just make sure that's highlighted. Click on our image error icon and see there. Here's our code that we just wrote. Absolute right 0, bottom 0. Now we can change it. So I'm going to highlight the 0 pixels on right, and I'm going to use my up and down arrow keys on my keyboard. I'm going to arrow up, and now I can see in real time where I'm moving this thing. So it makes my life easier when I'm trying to position stuff. So let's go right to about right there, I will say. So right 110. So let's copy that. Or let's just, we don't really need to copy it, but let's go put that in our code. Oops, 110. And then we want to do bottom. So we saved it in our code, so it's saved there. Now bottom, we're going to do bottom. Let's just keep going up until we think it looks good. We'll say like right there. Actually, let's do there. Like 14 pixels bottom. So let's just go back to our code and we'll make sure bottom is 14. And save. And now it should be saved there. There we go. So that's where the error icon is supposed to be. And now we need to make that error message that says, please provide a valid email right here. So we'll go do that. We'll hard code it in HTML. So I'm going to go, I'm going to bring it out of the input wrapper. And we'll just put a paragraph down here and with an ID of error message. We'll just say MSG for short. And it's supposed to say, please provide a valid email. And then we'll style that up. Let's make sure that it's there. There it is. Please provide a valid email. So it's there. So let's go style that up. So let's grab the error MSG ID. And it'll be hashtag error MSG, error for message. And the color, according to Figma, is going to be, let me grab that for the error message. It's like a reddish pinkish. Just going to paste it in. It's going to be hex code. So it's going to be hashtag F96464. And then the font size is 13 pixels. So a little smaller than the paragraphs. Font weight is going to be 400. And then let's give it some padding top of 10 pixels. And padding left of 20 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Let's go big. There it is. Please provide a valid email. So it looks pretty damn close to the to the design. So remember, we're gonna make this display none now, and then use JavaScript to only display this when the email is either empty or incorrect. So let's do that now. So let's say display none, and we'll copy that, and display none. So it shouldn't be there anymore, and it's gone. So now we're going to use JavaScript. We're going to select the button, and then when we click it, it'll trigger those things to happen if it's empty or if the email's incorrect. So let's do that. So the first thing that we need to do in our JavaScript is to, I want to select our form that has the idea form, and we're going to put an event listener on it, so where if I click this button, the submit button on submit, that JavaScript knows that I submitted the form, and we're going to test that out using console.log. Okay. So let's go ahead and say we're going to put our form in a variable. So let's say const, and we'll just call the variable form to make things easy, and then we'll say document dot get element by ID, and remember we just gave our form the idea form. Whoops. So there's our form variable. And now what we're going to do is add an event listener to the form. So we're going to say form dot add event listener. And then we're going to listen. Remember, it's a submit. It's not a click. It's a submit. So we're going to say submit. And then we're going to do a function. And we'll just write our function right in here. We'll do an anonymous unnamed function. And let's just do console.log. We want to test out that this is working, right? So we'll say console.log form has been submitted. Okay, so let's go ahead and right click and inspect and open our console and let's see if this is working. So remember, when we used our JavaScript, guys, we didn't grab onto the button like you normally would for a click event, if you know what all that is. In the case of a form, we listen just for submit. So we're not listening to the button itself. We're just listening we're listening for an event if the form is actually submitted. And how that translates is you got to remember on our button we put type of submit. So when we click the button, that is a submission or a submit action, and that's what our form was listening for. It's not listening for the button itself, but it's listening that the form was submitted. So that used to throw me off a lot when I first learned JavaScript and I did form validation. Like I would always try to do a click event on the button, but when you're using a form, you have to use the submit event listener and the button type of submit, okay? And that threw me off a lot, so make sure that doesn't happen to you, because I wasted like hours on some projects and I was new and I couldn't figure it out, and then I finally figured it out and I was like, wow, I'm an idiot. So hopefully you don't go through that. So let's submit our form and see if we get our console message. Oh, we did. Did you see? If you saw down there, watch, we'll do it again. It's disappearing. So form has been submitted, it's disappearing. So why it's doing that is by default, when you submit a form, it's like instant, it's done and it submits, right? So we want to prevent that default behavior because we want to see our message stay here, and then we also want to see our error stay here as long as the email is wrong. So how we can do that, guys, is we can use what's called the event parameter. And to do that in our function, we can enter a parameter within these little curly braces, and we can either write event or we can just use E. So I just like to use the letter E. And then within the function itself, we can use a built-in function, and that's the preventDefault. I think it's called like a method, right? Built-in functions are methods. However you want to call it, it's just built into JavaScript. So we can say E dot preventDefault curly braces. Okay. And now that should prevent it from submitting and just disappearing. So that should make our message stay. So let's try that again. And it did. And we can keep hitting form submit as much as we want. And it's still there. Similar to 20, 21. All right, so that's good. That's what we want. So now we can actually test to see if it's working with our icon and everything. So now what we have to do, guys, is we have to make another function that's going to test and look at our email and see if it's the correct format. So we need an symbol in there, and we need to go to an actual domain name. We need to do all those things, and we're going to use JavaScript to check it. And how you do that is you make something called what's called a regex. So I'll just pull that up on Google. So JavaScript regex. And what a regex is it's like a complex pattern. This is an example of a really short one that is just looking for like what A, B, and C. What a regex is, it's in between two slashes, and then you can put a bunch of characters that you want to look for or test for, and it's usually going to be within inputs to see if something like an email address is valid. You could use it on a password. If you try to enter in a password to certain programs and they're like must have these uppercase, lowercase, special character, that's all tested on the back end with something called a regex. Okay. Regexes they're difficult to learn. You can go down a rabbit hole with them and spend hours and hours learning about them. They're not fun. They're a pain in the butt. Okay, but we have to write them out in our code, especially when we're doing form validation with JavaScript. And to make it easier on yourself, and what I usually do is I use AI for that. Okay, so everybody's talking about AI and ChatGPT, but there's a few people that are actually showing you how to use it practically. No, it's not going to take over all of web development, at least not for a long time. It's not going to take everybody's jobs yet. It's in its infancy, but we can still use it, especially for coding and web development, to write pieces of code that are like, we know what we have to do, but the syntax is complex and annoying. That's where ChatGPT and AI can come in and really help us out. So if we just, let's just go to ChatGPT. And I'll click on Try ChatGPT. I'm already logged into my account, Practical Web Dev. And then we can just put in here like write a JavaScript. You can just talk to it, right? So write a JavaScript regex for checking email. And all we need, so it's going to tell us all of this stuff. And you can read it, like it'll actually teach you what all this means. But the bottom line is this is what we need. So this email regex is going to check through A through Z, uppercase and lowercase. It's checking for the @ symbol. It's checking for special characters, stuff like that. So this is a basic regex, and this is where AI and ChatGPT can come in and really make your life easier as a developer. So because you can spend hours searching for regexes on like Stack Overflow and Google, and like a lot of them don't work well, or they're like deprecated, or something's wrong with them. They're just not right. But this is a good one. So I'm literally just going to copy this because we need this, or we'll keep it in the window, but we'll copy it. This is perfect. Okay. So that's how you use ChatGPT and AI, guys. If you're a developer, make your life easy with harder syntax code. Like, again, as long as you know the concepts and what you're trying to do, you still have to be smart enough to know what you're trying to do to have ChatGPT help you. But if you at least know what you're trying to do, it can help you, if that makes sense. You can't just, it's not to the point where we can have it make you like a complicated website unless you know what you're doing. You have to understand code to make this work, okay? So again, don't get scared. This isn't gonna ruin our jobs or take everybody's job for, a long time. All right, so let's go back into our code. And we need to, let's make another function above this one. We'll just make it above it. And we'll say function, and we'll call it is valid email. And then we're going to put a email parameter in here because that's what we're checking for. All right, and then we can paste our email regex in here from ChatGPT that we got. And We'll go ahead now, and what we want it to, our function to return. And if you don't understand JavaScript yet, guys, you don't know what any of this is, don't worry about it. Just follow with me. You'll learn something, you'll learn something. You'll see JavaScript in action, but you'll understand it more as you study JavaScript. So don't let this freak you out. So we want to return email regex dot, and we're going to use the test method because we're testing to see if this is a real email. And then we'll use parentheses. And then we're going to say string, again, email. And this is just like this parameter. It's just a placeholder for what we're going to use it for in this next function. So every time we put email in here, it's just saying like, hey, placeholder for the actual thing we're going to check later. So that's all that means. We're going to say dot, and we're going to make it go to lowercase. That's just something that you do when you're checking and validating stuff. You always use the to lowercase method. And yeah, that's why like when you can enter that to lowercase method, guys, like when you enter you can enter your email address to sign up for like newsletters or to get like 20% off, you know how you do on websites. And if your caps lock is on, but you still enter your valid email address at Gmail or at Yahoo or wherever it is, it'll still accept it because on the back end, like they're using some kind of to lowercase function to put it all in lowercase so that it doesn't matter if the user uses uppercase. Okay. So there we go. So this function called isValidEmail, just to recap, in isValidEmail, we have an email regex in here that's in a variable. So all of this is just saved in the variable of email regex. And we want to return. So return just means like, what do you want the function to do? Well, what we want it to do is we want it to test against this email regex. So email regex.test. We want it to turn whatever the user puts into the input. We want them to turn it into a string. And then we want it to be a lowercase string. And at that point, while it's turning it into a lowercase string of text, we're checking to see if it matches the pattern that we want for email. And again, we got that from ChatGPT using some AI. Okay, so that's done. Now what we need to do is go back into our original function on submit. We need to select our input and the button and everything, and well, really just the input, and then we're going to make the error stuff show up if it's wrong, and then if it's not wrong, we'll make some additional code to make it right, okay? To show the user that they entered an email successfully so that they know that they're on the email list, basically. So we can get rid of this console log because we already know that it's hooked up right. We know that it's submitting the form. And let's go ahead and select our email input. So let's say const. And let's just call this email input. And that's going to be equal to document dot get element by ID again. And we'll grab our, let's see, it's called email input here. So let's make sure that we spell it correctly. And then let's select our error icon. So it's really the same thing. We can just copy this down. So let's call this error icon. And then let's see, in our error icon, let's make sure we spelled it right. We have an ID. We're going to select it by the ID of error icon. And we're just putting our HTML elements into variables so that we can use them with JavaScript. If you're not familiar there, you get to be able to use JavaScript to affect stuff, you have to select it. Basically, that's all we're doing. And we select stuff in CSS by using the dot selector or the hashtag for IDs. And in JavaScript, we select elements and we don't style them, but we what's called manipulate them. We change how they look on the page by saving them to variables and then using them with other stuff. So same kind of thing as HTML and CSS. All right, so let's copy. We need to grab our error message. So let's copy this down. And it's going to be error MSG. And we have the ID of error message for that. All right, and then let's go ahead and we're going to use now what's called an if-else statement to check all of this stuff and do what we want. So we're going to say if email input dot value. So if the value or whatever the user types in the email input is equal to, we're going to put triple equals. And if it's equal to an empty string, which is just 2 quotes. So if it's empty, if it's completely empty, we're going to do, we'll just use, to keep things really simple, we're going to use some CSS with JavaScript. So we'll say, the first thing we want to do is we're going to change the border color to that reddish pinkish color. So we're going to say email input dot style dot border color. Let's see if that comes up. Border color. And it's going to be equal to, and it's going to be the color F96464. And then we're going to say error icon dot, and again, we're going to use just some styling, but with JavaScript. So it's just the dot style method dot display. And we want it to display block because remember it's display none by default, but if we put it to display block, that will make it show up on the screen. And then last but not least, we'll say error message, right? We want that message to show. So error message dot style dot display, and same thing, block. Okay, so let's see if that works. So if nothing is in here, we should have everything pop up like it should on the screen. So we should have the border color change, the icon come up here, and the message here. So just if it's empty, we're not actually checking anything else yet. So let's go ahead and click this and see if that happens. Oh, it worked. So there's our icon. It's showing up and saying, hey, please provide a valid email. This is empty. Now, if we refresh the page and we actually put anything in here, nothing's going to happen yet because we have to do another part of the if statement. So let's do that now. So we're halfway there. So we're checking if it's empty, but now we also want to check. So we'll say else if, because now we want to check, hey, does this even match what a normal email should be? So we're going to say the exclamation point. So else if parentheses exclamation point, because exclamation point means if something is not, right? So if it's not, so we'll say exclamation is valid email. And then in other parentheses, we're going to be checking the email input dot value. So just to reiterate, we're saying else, check this too. If is valid email, which is all the regex in here, if it doesn't match is valid email, and specifically we're looking for what's in that email input, what value's in there, if that doesn't check out to the regex and everything else that we have in there, we're going to also do the following, which is the same stuff that we put up here. So now we're checking 2 things. Is it empty? If it's not empty, is it checking out with this regex up here? Does it actually look like an email address? So let's see if that works. So if empty, we get that. Let's just put something in here that's not an email. A bunch of gibberish. And then we can see if we put gibberish in here, we hit submit, we get the same thing. So we'll show that again. Empty. Please provide valid email. Something that's not an email. Please provide valid email. So cool. Looking good. So the last thing that I want to do is if it is a valid email, so I'll put a real email in here and submit it. Nothing's coming up, so that's good. This is a real email, but we're not getting any feedback on screen that it's a good email, that anything happened. So I do want to add we'll add a little success message, maybe in green text, that just shows the user like, hey, good job, you have a good email, we got you. So let's do that. So let's go back to our HTML. And below our error message, I'm just going to copy this down. We're going to make a success message because we want to let our user know, like, hey, we got your email. So we'll say success message, and we'll just say thank you with an exclamation mark. Okay. And then let's go to our CSS. And Copy the ID of success message. Oops. And then for our success message, we'll make the text just green because, green is good, right? Green means go. So we'll just say it's green. And then we can just copy all of these same styles down, really. We'll keep just the display none off just to see if it actually shows up where we want it to. All right, let's see if that shows up on our design. There it is. Thank you. So that thank you will show, okay? And then, yeah. So let's see, display none. Then we'll go to our JavaScript and let's select our success message. Let's add that. And we'll say success. And then success message. Whoops. Make sure we copy paste that. Okay. And then we can say, we can add to our if else statement here by just closing it out with an else. So let's just say else if everything's good. Let's just grab this code here so we don't have to rewrite everything. And we'll say success message dot style dot display equals block. Oops, let's delete that. Okay, so now we should get that thank you if everything's good to go. So let's put a real email in here. Hey, good. Okay, so now we're letting the user know that they're good. So let's just test it again. Empty, bad, not an email, bad, correct email, thank you. Okay? So it works. So now that we got our JavaScript in and everything's all set, all we're going to do now is just make our make this mobile friendly so that on mobile it's supposed to look like this. Okay? So let's just do we're going to do some media queries, stack everything on top of each other, and we'll be good to go here. So let's go hop into our CSS. And all the way at the bottom, I'm going to put a CSS comment. So I make it explicit where our media queries start. So all of our mobile styles. So we'll just say media queries. Stack everything on top of each other. And then we're going to have to write some additional HTML. We're going to have to take the logo out of this area and put it up here. And then we're also going to have to put in our mobile image because it's a different file for that. So just a couple changes and then stack everything on top of each other. So let's do that. So let's make a mobile image area that we only show on mobile. So I'm going to go into my body above our main, not above the main, but above our main card container, but below the main tag. And I'm going to make a mobile logo container. So let's say mobile logo container. And then within that, we're going to get the logo, the image logo again. So let's make an image tag, images. We're going to say logo SVG. We'll just give it an alt text of mobile logo, I guess. So now we're going to have two logos showing for a second until we use our CSS to, this is our mobile logo, this is our regular logo. We'll fix that, but we need that up there. And then we also need to make the image, we have to put the mobile image in our page. So let's just put that in now and then we'll make it look good with CSS. So we'll do it right below or doesn't really matter. I guess we can do it above our image, our desktop image. So this is our card image container. And let's just go right above here and we'll just make a div called mobile mobile card image container. And then we'll do an image, and then we'll go into our images folder, and now we want hero mobile JPEG. And then again, we'll just put base apparel model in there, just to add some accessibility. And now we're gonna have two images showing, mobile and that one. So I know it looks like our page is all messed up now, but we'll fix it, don't worry. Okay. So let's enter in some media queries and start getting this thing styled up correctly. So the first thing we'll do is I'm going to make the mobile design on most screens until we get to like bigger tablets. It's going to look like this. Okay. And that's all it really gives us as far as mobile styling goes. It doesn't give us a separate styling for tablets or anything. It just has a desktop and mobile. So we got to just kind of make it up on our own. But that's not a problem. We'll do it. So let's say we'll say at media screen, and we'll say max width, and I'm going to say everything 932 pixels and lower for our styles to start. So let's go to our page here. We're going to use the Google Developer Tools. So we're going to use Inspect, and we're going to look at this on a mobile screen view. So let's look at it on an iPhone 14 Pro Max, or no, let's do like an iPhone 12. It's probably more common, and start styling this up. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of our logo for desktop. So we have two logos. I want to get rid of the one for desktop because we want to display that none. So let's say logo container image, and we're just going to say display none because we don't need two logos. There we go. Now we just got our main one here for the mobile, and now we also want to do that same thing for desktop. We don't want our mobile logo on desktop either. So let's go ahead and grab mobile image card container, image, display none. Okay, so now let's test that out. So we have one logo on mobile now, and then on desktop we're back to, oh, we still have two. Let's see, what did we do wrong here? And my bad, guys. It's mobile logo container. I'm on the wrong image. So let's do mobile logo container image display none. There we go. So that should work now. Let's see. And there we go. We just have one logo here now. We don't have both of them. And then if we go to a mobile view, it's not showing two logos. All right, so now we've got the other elephant in the room is we've got to fix that there's two images showing. So let's just do that now. Let's get these images not showing where they on both screens. And we have a little typo here. So I'll do our mobile card image container. We don't want that showing on desktop. So we'll say display none. And then we don't want card image container image showing on mobile. So say display none. And that should make our page look better. There we go. So our desktop page is fixed for now because we don't have two logos and two images showing. So now we got to style up the mobile. And our mobile still looks like a mess, but we don't have duplicates on there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stack everything on top of each other. So let's do that by selecting our main card container. So I'm just going to copy it from up here. And I'm going to change my height from 100 VH to 100%. And we have our display flex and align center. Those are going to just inherit from the desktop, so we don't need to have that code in there twice. But what we do want to do is we want to do flex. We want to change the flex direction from side by side to on top. So we're going to say flex direction, and we're going to say column reverse. And then we need to make sure that our mobile image container is displaying block down here, which I don't think we did yet. Nope, we didn't. So let's display this block so our image will actually show up. There it is. So now our image is on top and our text is on the bottom. So it doesn't look great still, but we're getting there. Let's grab our mobile logo container and display that block. So our logo is not showing up. There we go. So now we got we're getting there. We got the logo, the image, and the text. Now we just got to style everything up. So let's keep going. Let's select our card text container code and bring it on down. So we're just going to be copying and pasting, the same order and just modifying it as we need to make it fit mobile, okay? So I think for the background, for the text area, there's actually a mobile image. So let's go to images. And I guess it's just background pattern desktop. But if we look at the design, it's really just pink background or pinkish background. It's not really that image. So what I'm going to do, I use that same gradient tool and everything I showed you earlier in the video just to come up with like a pinkish background. Actually, no, I got this gradient code from Figma. So for mobile, it's just like the pinkish background, and there it is. And I got that from Figma. So take the image out, put in that gradient code, and again, if you have Figma, you can get it from there, or you can do what I told you earlier, go use the CSS gradient creator and make it that way. Using like an online web tool. We want the width of this to be 100%, not 60. And then we want the height to be 100% instead of VH. And then we're going to go ahead and change our paddings. So we're going to say the padding left and right is just going to go from 15 to 3 rem because everything's all scrunched up. And it's a tiny screen, so we don't need that much padding. Look at that. And that already fixed it a lot. And then we're going to add some padding top to bring this down. So we're going to say padding, say padding top, and we'll go like 4.5 rems. There we go. Give that some space. Let's make it, first we're going to give it a width of just 100 pixels because that's how small it should be according to Figma on mobile. And then we'll give it some padding of 2 rem all around. And let's take away, for now, we'll take away the width because that looked way too small. And we'll just go with the padding. And then let's go ahead and style our image because now that's kind of throwing off our design. So let's take care of that. So we have it displaying as block. Let's give it a width of 100% so it goes all the way across the screen. And then let's also do, along with the image itself, let's also do the image container for mobile with 100%. And then everything is centered text-wise on the mobile design. If you see here, all the text and everything is centered. So let's do, in our text container, let's change everything to text align center. There we go. And then let's just keep going down. So now let's do the main heading and make that smaller. It's a little too big for the smaller screens. Let's go down here. And we're going to change the font size to 40 pixels instead of 60 something. And then the letter spacing is just going to go down to 10 pixels. We'll take away uppercase. We'll take away the color Because again, guys, all those are just going to copy down, so we don't need to have the code twice. The font weight is still 600. The line height is going to go from 71 to 42. So it's a little more scrunched up like the desktop design. And that's already looking a lot better. Let's keep going. Our email CTA text, let's go select that. Actually just copy the whole thing down. And again, guys, we're just going, in order, element by element, and making it mobile. That's all we're doing here. So padding top, let's change that from 2 rem to 1 rem. Make it a little closer. The color is the same, so we'll get rid of that. Our font size is going to go from 16 to 14 on mobile, so a little bit smaller. Font weight is still the same, and the line height is going to go from 28 to 22 pixels, so it's a little closer together. And you know what? We'll keep the padding top 2 rem. Looks a little too close. That's better. And then we'll select our input and make the width a little more mobile friendly on all screens. So copy our email input and we'll make it a little, see, the width is still going to be 100, so we'll get rid of that because that's pretty much the same. We'll make our height 48 pixels, make it a little smaller. Everything else looks pretty good. And I'm getting these heights and everything again from Figma in the mobile design section. Let's grab our email button. So this code here, make our button a little smaller to match the input. So all of this is going to remain the same. We're going to change the width to 64 pixels and the height to 52. There we go. And then we can bring this over. So no, that still looks pretty good. We'll keep that right there, right -5. Looking good, guys. We're looking good on mobile so far. Our image is going all the way across. See what our error messages look like. So it looks okay. Let's move our error icon a little bit. Let's grab that. So our error icon's a little too far over. And then this please provide an email that's centered because we centered all the text in here and that's fine. Let's see, error icon. So it's still going to be absolute. All that I really want to change is how far right it is. So let's bring that from 110 down to like 70. And that'll move it over a little bit more. We can do like 75. There we go. That looks good. So that doesn't look bad. We can do the error message because I don't want the padding. It's actually over too far. That's not even centered. So let's see if we can fix that. So let's go up here. Error message. And everything is fine, but the padding left. So let's get rid of all this. Let's just say padding left 10 pixels. If we do 0. If we do 0, it'll just be centered. Like everything. Now it's like centered. So that's fine. We'll do that. And then we'll do the same thing for the success message because it'll have the same problem. When we enter in like a real email, right? And we get that green thank you. So let's just copy this down. Success message. Say padding 0. Get rid of all that. Okay. And let's just test it out, make sure it looks good. Let's put a real email. Cool. All right. That's pretty much it for mobile. I wonder if we can give this a height instead of 100%. If we can just give it a whole height so that this I don't like that the background just ends here and it's just white. So let's see if we can do that. Say like height 800 pixels. That looks better. All right. Let's see how this looks on mobile. So let's go big. Let's go through. I have a ton of devices here. Let's just see how this looks. This is the BlackBerry Playbook. Doesn't look so hot at 1024. Let's see if we can just fix something so that it'll look better on tablets, or at least a little bit better. Let's see. And I'm not really concerned with that, but because we didn't really get a design for tablets, we only got mobile and desktop. But let's see if we can do something. Let's say max width. I think the biggest tablets are like 1368 pixels. Just off the top of my head. And then let's fix, what's really messing this up is the padding here. So that's the card text container. So let's select that. And let's put the padding there. I wonder if we just put that up here. Yeah. We can do more than that though. We can do like 5. Bring it in a little bit more. I think that actually looks a lot better. Look at that. That's good. So that's like a tablet. That looks better, right? I'll take it. We don't really care about tablets, right? Because most people are just going to be on mobile. You know, let's center this input. I don't think our input is centered. Input wrapper. Say margin 0 auto. There we go. So that's centered now. Thought it was centered, but I guess it wasn't. All right, let's keep going. S8. I have so many devices on here, guys, but we'll just run through a couple of them. And then if there's any glaring issues that you see, you can... I've shown you how to do this, right? Even if you're new, you can go in there and change paddings on stuff or whatever you want. So S9 Plus, so it pretty much looks the same on all these phones. How about a Pixel, Google Pixel? Pretty much looks the same, right? Looks like the design, right? Let's see, what's the design look like? Yeah, that's pretty good, guys. XR iPhone, 12 Pro. Well, it doesn't look so hot, but I don't care. As long as it looks, most users are going to use their phone like this, right? Nobody really, unless you're watching a video, you don't turn it. So I'm not going to, again, if you want to fix that, you know the basics now, go for it. S8 Plus, iPad Mini, iPad Air. Pretty good. How about the Nest Hub Max? It's a big tablet. How about iPhone X? Yeah, we're looking good. I'm happy. I'm happy if you're happy. We're all happy. How about an iPhone 5? Throwback. Looking good. If we're looking good on an iPhone 5, we're looking good on everything, right? But, yeah, guys, that's going to be it here. I don't want to take up too much more time. This video is going way long, but that's going to be it for this project. So we got our mobile, we got our desktop, we got our JavaScript in there. Again, looks pretty close to the design. I'm going to upload this to Frontend Mentor. I'll put the code, the GitHub code on here for you guys if you want to use that as you code along the finished product. But, yeah, that's going to be it for this here. Let's see. Boom. Thank you. Yep. That's going to be it for this tutorial here, guys. I do want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.